The Daily Beast had a fascinating article yesterday about how Bernie Sanders is a rare and bold politician who's actually principled. That's super, super rare in a politician, to be principled and to stick by it. So they spoke to some of the trans community who lived in Burlington when he was mayor, and they all had nothing but praise for him. So here's what they say. When it was wildly unpopular politically, Sanders backed a pride parade. In the LGBT community, word got out. Burlington was a safe place for trans Americans. Amber LeMay, a 60-year-old self-described drag queen, moved to Burlington, Vermont in 1987 from Lima, Ohio. She says, I was impressed with the open and vocal gay community. There was the monthly newspaper out in the mountains, and there were frequent protests and demonstrations with gay themes. This was a new world for me. From what I understand, Sanders didn't do anything specific for the gay community. He just treated them like he treated everyone else. He gave opportunities, and the gay community took him up on them. Gay rights organizers had planned Burlington's first Pride Parade 4 years before LeMay had arrived in 1983. Many community members and politicians had opposed it. Bernie Sanders, who was in his first term as mayor, vocally backed the parade, citing the right to march as a civil liberties issue. In a memo written a day before the parade, Sanders said, in our democratic society, it is the responsibility of government to safeguard civil liberties and civil rights, especially the freedom of speech and expression. In a free society, we must all be committed to the mutual respect of each other's lifestyle. 2 years after the parade, Sanders signed a city ordinance that further prohibited housing discrimination. The ordinance gave legal protection to the gay community, as well as welfare recipients, the elderly, and the handicapped. Okay, let me set the table for you guys here so you understand exactly what's going on. We're talking about the 1980s. In the 1980s, gay rights, forget it. It's not a thing. Like, if you utter something in favor of gay people, it's like, you know, you just argued in favor of pedophiles. People looked at it like, whoa. At the time, you still had in the DSM, which is the psychologist Bible, they call it, how they diagnose. You still had being gay viewed as like a mental illness and a disorder. That's what we're talking about. So at a time when nobody was standing up, no politicians were standing up for gay rights, Bernie was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And again, I love what they said here, because they said he didn't do it because he's biased in favor of the community. He did it because he's actually principled. And he said, look, we live in a free society and we're supposed to believe in civil liberties. That doesn't just mean for people that we want it to apply to. It means for everybody. So not only did he make that argument, but again, you really need to put yourself in the 1980s framework here. Bernie wasn't just arguing for gay rights in the 1980s. He was arguing for trans rights. They had a trans parade in the 1980s in Burlington. Again, as much as gay rights back then wasn't a thing, like that's not a thing. It's not something anybody argued for. It just wasn't a thing. Trans rights was even further outside of the Overton window and the realm of respectable politics. And he did it as a first-term mayor. For those of you who don't know, politicians love to protect their ass. And you don't take risks like that in a first term, because if you do that, you're shooting yourself in the foot and your political career could be over. He said, no. I'm going to be principled. I believe in free speech. I believe in free expression. I believe in equality. I believe in it across the board. So here's what's going to happen. In the 1980s, I will stand up and argue for trans rights. And then there are other angles to this story too, angles that nobody else ever brings up. But when you do something like that, do you understand how much other members of the community crack down on you? And how much they come after you? Guys, people will make, we've heard the arguments, we still hear them today in terms of homeless people, when there's a homeless population nearby or something. Oh, you're going to affect housing prices, and if you affect housing prices, we're not going to attract big money clientele, and that's going to hurt tax revenue for the state, and so we can't have, get rid of the homeless people, get rid of them. I don't care where they go, just get rid of them. They would make the same arguments about trans people. You're going to do a trans parade? A trans parade in our streets where my kids have to go to school and where, you're going to hurt the property value of the houses. Nobody's going to want to live here, blah, 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 blah. Bernie's like, yeah, save it. Shut the fuck up. I don't care what you have to say. I'm principled. I will stand up for their rights. Compare this story to what we know about Hillary. Now, guys, fair is fair. Facts are facts. Hillary's on the right side of the gay marriage issue today, on the right side of the gay rights issue today. That's true. We have to acknowledge that. But we also have to acknowledge the other facts. She came out in favor of gay marriage in 2013. 2013. Bernie Sanders was for full gay equality 40 years before that. One politician cares about political expediency and getting the power in the system, accruing the power. It's about her. The other one actually is principled. So this isn't a question as to who's more progressive, who's more principled, who fights for the people more. We know the answer. If you believe in history and you believe in facts, we know the answer. And again, compare this to the story we just did about Hillary Clinton. Here, I'll tell you guys again. What's Hillary Clinton doing post-Super Tuesday? She's planning a fundraiser with lobbyists. David Schroeder said, Clinton schedules Super Tuesday Victory Lap, a huge DC fundraiser with Wall Street and pharmaceutical industry lobbyists. That is Hillary Clinton. She'll say to your face, oh, I'm for the people. Oh, this big money doesn't affect me. It affects Republicans big time, so blame them. But me, no, it doesn't mean anything. I'm not even taking that much of it anyway, so what does it matter? I'm for you, yeah. Second, you're not looking. All right, are we ready to do the Wall Street and pharmaceutical industry fundraiser? And he goes on to say, hey, these are companies and people that have business in front of the next president. So whether it's a corporate welfare check or a loophole for taxes or what have you. So she's rubbing elbows with people who she's going to do favors for later, and they're going to fund her campaign now. That is Hillary Clinton. What's Bernie Sanders? In the 1980s, a lone voice when nobody else was saying it. He goes out there and says, yeah, I'm for trans rights. I don't care if all of you hate me after saying that. It's a principled position, and I'm going to stand up for that, and I'm going to fight for that. Way ahead of his time, way more principled than anybody else I could think of.